Hi everyone, this is Kyle with K-Debate. I wanted to do a video on churches, not religion inherently, but mega churches. The idea that you can have a business that promotes a very specific kind of belief system that is based off of evangelical Catholicism, any mainstream name for religion, but they're not actually teaching that religion. They're not actually promoting it like a normal church. And what they do is, what was his name? Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen. My ex-wife. I'm divorced, but my ex-wife watched him every single day on television. Looked him up on YouTube. Read all of the stuff on him, and what she wanted, and what he promoted, was that if you believe a certain thing, that you can benefit from it financially, and that's all she wanted in life was money, prestige, power, and for people to look up to them without having to work for that. And in that mega church, because I watched it too, because I was trying to, be supportive and all that stuff. Even though I hated it, the entire premise of it was wrong, but it was twisted. But his sermons, tens of thousands of people in this giant crystal cathedral, pretty much. All of his sermons were about his idea of what it meant to have faith. And he was pretty much promoting his idea without giving people the option of having their own relationship. Like, they'll say, and I'm saying they as in there's multiple mega churches. There's a lot of them, and all of the people in charge, the figurehead, the person that's on the stage, and there's multiple people on the stages, but there's the main person. They're all multi-millionaires. They own planes. They own massive amounts of property. They are very, very rich. And the reason they're rich is because the donations they get are not donations inherently to the community. It's not like they're spending the money they get on, homeless shelters and feeding the poor and just stuff like that. They pocket most of that money. They obviously they build these giant buildings to house more people, and they publish books, and they advertise, and they do all these things. They are not practicing what a lot of people think they are. Like, they're not doing the things that people think they're doing. Some of them sometimes do, but that's not what they're there for. They are a for-profit church, and they still get nonprofit stuff, so they don't get taxed, and they get special property stuff, but they make tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars each. And that idea of, they have different ways of wording it. And I'm actually writing, it's actually kind of funny. I started this a few months ago, but actually a few years ago, and I restarted it a few months ago, a book. And it's about this concept of people that give you not praise, but people that give you ideas on how to be happy. They give you just enough information so that it seems credible and will somewhat work, and then they give you this other huge chunk. Like, there's the nugget of truth and effectiveness, and this huge block of nonsense. And these mega churches do that. They have this idea that's based on whatever religion they say they are, evangelical, Catholicism. I'm mixing up my words, but they have this nugget from whatever religion they say they're from, and then they have this big block of their own idea. It's not in their holy book. It's not in anything. They are making it up, and they have their own books that they've published or written or whatever, and they have their own spiel. They have their argument, and it has nothing to do with the religion. It has nothing to do with any kind of group like historical thing, and it's them. They made it, and they have spread it around since then. They've made it popular in that group so that that group now has it, but they themselves made it. It's much like Scientology, or or any of the newer religions that are founded on the principle of making money and gaining power and using that power to get more. And these mega churches, they're almost all, not all of them, but most of them are scams, where they send you, if you join the church, or if you show interest in the church, they will ask you for money, and they will promise you, if you give them money, that you will in the future benefit from giving them money. And I'm not talking about a payback from them, I'm talking about a payback from the universe. And they're legally allowed to do that because they're not promising you anything. There's pretty much, it's a really weird technical way of saying, if you give us something, we're not going to do anything, but you will benefit because of the universe's energies, however they word it. Sometimes they say it's the grace of God, or it's the seed of faith, or it's the plant the seed and you will reap what you have sown. The more you plant, the more you get. But all of that, it's a very small nugget of truth, and I keep saying that there's a nugget there that is true. If you invest in your time, then like you in practicing a craft, or working towards a promotion, or working towards getting a car, all of those can get you those things. But they're pretty much saying the universe is doing it because you're giving us money. And it's a really weird kind of, a lot of people believe, they really really believe, and it's not true. It's not based off of any reasonable, realistic, in reality thing. These people made it up, and they are massively benefiting from it. That person, that group, the mega church. If you give us $100, if you give us $1,000, if you give us $10 million, we will pretty much not give God a nudge in the right direction, but the universe will respond to your generosity. They will respond because we are the benefactors, and we should get your donation. I don't understand why they decided that. Like when you argue that you are the moral high ground, you have to have a reason for that. They arbitrarily decided that they should be the benefactors of your money. And I guess their argument is because they spread the word better, they can spread the, and by spreading the word, you will be benefited by helping us spread the word. But that's not how they argue it. They don't argue that if you go out and spread the word on your own, you'll benefit. You have to give them money. Because if you start your own church and you start doing your own thing, you don't get that. You don't get promised that. So it's always this this kind of push for their own benefit. So they ask you for donations. They ask you to buy their stuff, which is constantly on sale on stage in church, selling you stuff. I knew that was wrong. I've read the Bible. I know that you're not supposed to have, salesmen in church. That's kind of a big thing. And not all churches, because every religion is slightly different, but the main ones that you see are Christian. And the whole Jesus doesn't want money tellers in the church was kind of a biggie. There was a whole story around it, and there's a lot of money is the root of all evil. You cannot worship money before God. A rich man would have the same would have trouble getting into heaven, like a camel getting into the eye of a needle. And there's a whole bunch of different examples of money shouldn't be a goal, and it shouldn't be a focus if you want a certain kind of spiritual life. And so when I see these mega churches that say this is the way to get, not only is it the means of getting material wealth, but you need material wealth first. So you need some money. If you have $1,000 in your bank account and you give them 100, or if you have $1 billion in your bank account and you give them 1,000,000, but it's giving material wealth specifically to get more back later, and this hypocritical, we're saying we're Christian, or we're saying we're whatever religion, and we are not promoting that in the least. We're going completely outside of that, and then people argue, well, why would they do that? We should trust them because they're the moral high ground, or because they have the spiritual, piousness, or whatever you want to word it. They are human, and they are getting millions, if not tens or hundreds of millions of dollars from this. And you ask, why would somebody betray us? Why would somebody become corrupt? Or why would somebody be scamming us? I mean, they're good people. They can't be bad because they're the moral high ground, and that's circular. You're justifying that because they have this position, they are above scrutiny, and their position, they made it themselves, and the idea that they're above scrutiny, like you cannot critique them, you cannot judge them because of their position, that's not right. So I look at these megachurches. I look at all of the different kinds of things that they've said, and they are contradictory. They don't make sense in the context of the scriptures that they are preaching. So if they were saying, give me money because I want it, sure, that's cool. At least they're being honest. They want your money. They want your time. They want your... I don't think they really want your energy, because I don't believe they actually, as a whole, believe it. I believe that some of them do, because obviously some of them are there because they've been brainwashed. But a megachurch, and the term megachurch is already kind of weird, but they indoctrinate. They find people that are having trouble, or that are having problems in their stability. And you could be super rich and still have stability problems. You can feel unfulfilled, and they will find ways of getting money from you, of getting things from you, and then they'll give you this idea that because you helped us, your future success is because of that. And people that are at rock bottom, there's really only two ways you can go. Even further down, which usually results in them dying, or they can go back up because of hard work, or because of luck, or because somebody helped them out, or whatever. It's not the church helping them. They don't. That mega churches don't do that. Other churches can, like soup kitchens and feeding the homeless, whatever like that. Mega churches don't do that. But let's say you donate $100 and then everything goes terribly, but then one nice thing happens. Just one nice thing, and it could be really good. I mean, you reunited with your estranged daughter or whatever, and completely unrelated to anything you've been doing. And you'll say, I'm so glad I gave that church my last $100. And no, that's not how that works. It's not karma. If they're preaching karma, like if you do a good thing, and it's not a good thing because you're throwing money into a giant pit of money, in the hopes that more money will come to you for some reason. It's the presentation. It's the presentation that doing this, don't give your money to the homeless. Don't give your money to the starving. Don't give your money to the needy. Give the money to the super rich megachurch because they are one step below God and they have a direct line of communication with him, and by helping them promote their group of megachurch, that you personally will benefit from it. And it's so blatantly a scam. Not all of them, most of them. A vast majority of them. Blatantly a scam. Some of them might have been founded on good merit, might have been run with good merit, like honesty and integrity. They've since collapsed under capitalism and the natural greed that people have, but it's just people that are blind to people's motivations. It's like they're a religious man, they're a spiritual man, they're a devout man, they can do no wrong. That is not true. That is so not true. People will, if you've ever watched To Catch a Predator, ever, one of the first things almost all of them do in their defense after trying to sexually assault, or however you want to word it, a child, they will say, I am a religious man, I came here under, good pretenses, I was trying to warn them, I wasn't going to do the thing that I said I was going to do for 6 months online. And it's just, they hide behind the curtain of morality, the protection of this fake morality. It's like, because they're a religious man or woman, they are incapable of being judged. But they use it so they can abuse people, so they can hurt people. And I'm not saying this is a founding thing of religion. I'm saying this is a founding thing of megachurches, modern megachurches. And it's the natural tendency of them. They have to go that way eventually. It's like a totalitarian dictatorship in a country. You can technically have a dictator that is benevolent. Technically, you can have the most hated form of government in the United States. It's considered a communist society with a dictator in charge. That's the one we hate the most, and we try to make sure that doesn't happen anywhere. But technically, you can have that form of government with a good, benevolent leader, with a culture that will benefit the most from having that. But it is so unstable because it leans towards abuse, because it is so easy. It's like you're standing on a log, and anything that tips it will make it crash into the worst kind of thing. And these kinds of churches have that. They have this. It leans towards corruption. It leans towards abuse. Because once you get to that size, even if you started off with really good intentions, once you've reached that size and you have to perpetuate it more and more and more, it gets watered down. You have to get more money. You have to get more people. You have to get more sponsorships and more products and more everything. And then you eventually you get turned into this thing that wasn't meant to be in religion, which is, or at least the specific religions they say they're promoting, is these giant businesses that are just there to get money out of the poor and the weak-willed and the downtrodden and the people that are already suffering. And you're saying, as long as you give us, like, you may be suffering, you have nothing, but if you give us your blood, we will, not directly, we're not going to do it, but you will get something in return. And I mean, I've been on the I've personally had somebody ask me for $400, and this was years ago. I had $400, and that was it. I didn't have anything. You need it, otherwise you're going to be homeless. I have my rent paid up. I'm not going to be able to eat for a week. But you said you needed it or you'll be homeless, and I can't see that. And they were my friends, so I sent them the $400. And I didn't get to eat. That's sacrifice. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or whatever. But if somebody were to demand that from me for my spiritual, like, the person didn't promise to give me something in return. They needed it. Megachurches don't need it, but they're still asking for it. They say, yeah, you don't have anything, but give us what you can scrounge up off the ground if you have to. Like go out, get 100. Like, you don't have anything. You're dying. But if you can, just work over there a little bit and give us whatever you can scrounge up, then it'll be great. And that's how I see them. Like, for the rich, they can give more. Yeah, they'll pander to them a lot. But the masses, the masses of the ignorant and the easily duped and the easily manipulated, that's their target, because they're promising them a lottery ticket. They're promising them, the easy way out. Like, yeah, you don't have anything, but you're not really giving up anything, because you're going to get something. You will get something more than you've invested. And it's this really weird, because it's not real. It's not an actual promise. They're making it up. They made all of it up with that tiny nugget of belief. And it hurts people a lot. And that's why I'm making this video, because it hurts people. They're like that $400 and I didn't get to eat. And I didn't, but there was a reason for it, like a moral reason to do that. But for these mega churches, it's an immoral thing that they're doing. And they're putting people that are already suffering, already not having enough, and they're asking them to sacrifice more so that they can, in the future, they're not doing it. That's the thing. If the churches took that money and invested it into things that allowed to the betterment of society, sure, that's what normal churches do anyway. They're not doing that. They pocket it. They build their giant churches just so they can get more money. And it really, really, really bothers me, because that is an abuse. It's an abuse of trust. It's an abuse of the system. It's an abuse of spirituality as a whole. These people that are doing this, the person that I named just a little while ago, Joel Osteen, he is a monster. And I'm not saying that he kills people. I'm not saying that he goes out and he feels like a monster in his own boots. He probably feels like the most righteous person in the world. But he has asked people with nothing to give him, his church, him, as much as they can muster, even though he is a multi-millionaire. He personally is a multi-millionaire. And he's a personality. He might not have been the founder. I don't know. I don't care. But he is the current face of that. And I see him lying to his constituents, lying to the people that have faith in him, that believe he is a holy man, that believes he is giving them a better life and a better spiritual existence. And he's lying to them. He's a businessman. He's like, he is like what would happen if a doctor started, it's almost funny, I almost said charge for their services, but say a doctor saves somebody's life on the street. Like, somebody falls over or starts choking or whatever, and the doctor runs over there and saves them, and then gives them a bill. Just you have to pay this now. That kind of abuse. I'm talking about, yeah, you make somebody feel better, or you help them in some way. Because honestly, sometimes what people need is a pick-me-up, a hope, a dream, or whatever. But he's not actually saving people. He's maybe helping people, but he is hurting people. And I'm getting all over the place with these references, but what he does is immoral, and he's hiding under the shield that he is a holy man, and he's not. He's the opposite of a holy man. He is a corrupt businessman, and it's really hard to pull that away from people, like the veil of what he actually is, to the people that believe in him, like my ex-wife. He could do no wrong. Like, that was literally, he could start killing people and it would have been justified in some way in their head. And that kind of untouchability is very dangerous. And so I just wanted to talk about megachurches for a little while, and I got a little, not really off topic, but I didn't feel like I explained it as well as I could have. But when I look at this, guy, I've watched many of his performances, and I know there's people that will put him on a pedestal. He is untouchable, completely untouchable, and I've talked to people that believe that, and they were very angry with me. But I wasn't pushing the issue, but conversation happens, and that's why you don't talk about religion with certain people. But I've seen what he's said, I've looked at what he's done, and I've seen what his organization does, and he is a con artist. He's a scammer. He preys on the people, which is a funny play on words, for everything they have, everything that they are willing to sacrifice for this fake idea that they've made it up. They, as an organization, not the church, not the religion, this business that they have, they say, well, if we say this, they'll give us their stuff. They'll want this investment that we've promised them from the universe. And we don't have to give them anything. The universe will figure it out. And when I see that, I see it as the worst kind of scam, the worst kind of abuse, because it abuses the people that are already at their worst, their most hurt. And I want this kind of cultural allowance to stop. The people that are untouchable to be allowed to hurt people. Like, if you are above it morally and you have a position that puts you certain spiritual leaders actually are good people. I'm not saying that they're not, but this cultural thing, this mega church thing, that's not good. It perpetuates corruption. It is a very easily corruptible system. So even if they didn't start corrupt, they will eventually become corrupt. It's money. It's all about the money. You got to follow the money, and that's why I was talking about that earlier. But I guess that's it. I'm gonna start repeating myself if I don't end this right now. And I'm looking over at my screen. If you guys didn't know, I have my setup over here. But that's really it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. Even though it was more of I guess it was an explanation. It's really hard to get all of the, like, if I started dropping names and locations and stuff like that, it really wouldn't help. But look up megachurches, look up the founders, look up the main people, like the person I just named. Again, his name is Joel Osteen. Look up his net worth. Just look up his history. Look up what he's done. And just watch some of his stuff if you're interested. He's extremely charismatic, and he has a very unique face, and he's just very, very good at what he does. But listen to what he says. Like, compare it to what he's referencing, and then figure out if he's actually, like, 'cause you can objectively look at this kind of stuff. Like, if he says one thing and then you read up what he's quoting and you say, well, that's not what they meant, he's lying. And it happens. So, and a lot of the times it's just misdirection. But just look up what you can, read up what you can, and hopefully this kind of stuff gets fixed. So, okay, again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. I hope it was entertaining, and I hope to see you in the next video, and peace.